Hi, all. I'm kind of looking forward to today because I had the opportunity this week to speak to let's call him an elder, who asked me a question. And today's title comes up to that question: How to Attain Self Love and Empower Yourself. I'd never thought about it. Language is an extremely powerful thing. It can divide us, it can separate us, and it can educate us. There are all kinds of levels of communication, and the clarity of that communication becomes important. And I began to realize how many people misunderstand what self-love is all about. So I'd like to digress for just a minute and go back to a story in my early life, one that has stuck with me, will always be with me, but I'm beginning to learn more and more about it. As some of you may know, I went to school in the 1940s. I'm well into my 80s now. And schools were different in those days. They didn't have the structures and prohibitions or safety nets that we have today. I had no idea until later on in life that something that's prevalent today, attention deficit disorder, was something that I was born with. And I was also dyslexic. I did not really learn to read until into 5th grade. And I want to share this story with you because its impact, from my point of view, relates to us today. Teachers didn't want me in their class. Because I was ADD, I didn't sit still, and I was always into something, including, at times, not being able to keep my mouth closed. Teachers decided not to call on me because I couldn't read. I was able to answer questions, but they never thought about me as having intelligence compared to my peers because I could not read. The story begins in 5th grade when my classroom teacher was out sick, and I did not know she left a note for the substitute teacher: do not call upon Schwartz. Well, either the substitute teacher didn't read the note or decided to disregard it. Something came up. I raised my hand, and the teacher called upon me And this dyslexic kid read. The following day, my classroom teacher came back, saw a note from the substitute, and it said, "I don't understand why you told me not to call on Schwartz. I'm making up the note. I called on him and he was able to read." The teacher called me up to the desk, opened the text of what was being taught at that moment, and asked me to read. And I read. She stopped the class, called up one of the girls, gave her a notebook, and said, "I'm leaving for a few minutes. Write down the name of anyone who gets out of order while I'm gone. Schwartz, come with me." And she took me down to the principal's office, and I'll never forget that day. I sat down on this dark mahogany slatted couch. And the teacher went in to the principal behind this starburst clouded glass you could not see through. And I could hear conversation, but I couldn't hear what was going on. Several minutes later, the teacher emerged, said, "Wait here," and disappeared. About an hour and a half later, my parents arrived. And my mother, first comment out of her mouth, she said, "Always something. Every Monday and Thursday, you've got a problem." The principal ushered them in, and they spoke 10, 15 minutes. My parents emerged from the principal's office. My mother shook her head and said, "Now you've done it." And my father said, "Come." We left. I got into the back seat of my father's car. My mother turned around and said, "Miss," the principal's name, "said you are the most insidious student she'd ever met." I remember that word and will remember it for the rest of my life. And I said, "What did I do?" And my mother said, "The principal says you have a criminal mind. Any student who for 5 years can fool everybody into believing he cannot read needs to be evaluated by a psychiatrist. And you are suspended from school until you have a psychiatric evaluation." And I said, "What did I do?" And my father said, "Be quiet. You heard what the principal said." Well, they took me to a psychiatrist. I had 5 sessions with that psychiatrist. And after the 5th session, he called my parents in. I sat there, and what he said was very interesting. He said, "I do not understand what the problem is, but your son is not lying. He is telling the truth. What the problem was, I do not know, but I'm writing you a note now telling the school they have to reinstate him." Remember, this was the 1940s. My father took me to school, took me into the principal's office. There was all kinds of arguments and resistance. I could hear the conversation. My father left. The principal took me back into my fifth grade classroom. And this is just the beginning of the story. Just from an informational point of view, all doors in public buildings open outward. So you can get locked out, but you cannot get locked in. They took my student desk out into the hall, opened the door, put me behind the door so that I could look through the crack between the door and the doorpost, but I was not permitted into the classroom. Interesting, isn't it? And there I was, sitting in the hall for several months while kids ran up and down the hall, poking fun at me. And there was nothing I could do about it. Now, why do I tell you this story? I tell you this story because it was extremely painful. But not only painful, I was very clearly the dummy of the classroom. Because where have you ever heard of a kid having to sit in the hall and be confronted with what he had to? And here I am today, 60 years later, more, 80 years, 70 years later. And here I am, Dr. Schwartz, speaking to you. What I want to talk about is self-love, but in a different context. I went to the dictionary and I discovered that I think we have been confusing our understanding, and this is why language is so important. More and more, I've come to recognize that self-love is a very confusing thing. And connected with self-love is narcissism, to love me. And so I went to the dictionary and I decided, from conversation I had with an older, wiser gentleman, and he said to me, "I don't think you mean self-love, Dr. Schwartz. I think you mean respect." And I'm going to read you some definitions first before we move on. Merriam-Webster Dictionary, respect. High or special regard, esteem. An act of giving particular attention, consideration. The Oxford Learning Dictionary, a strong feeling of approval, somebody, something, because of their good qualities or achievements. In those situations that I described for me, it was impossible for me to look at myself and feel worth. In fact, I think I mentioned to people on these Facebook evenings that one of the things on a positive and negative level that saved me is that I was a left-handed pitcher. And I was so good that teams would choose me because I raised significantly their ability to win. No one was my friend, because who wants to be the friend of a dummy? And here I am today. And so what I want to look at together with you is this whole issue of self-respect. I want you to drop the word self-love. It gets confusing. Every single one of you who is watching me right now wants to lose weight. Every single one of you watching me right now knows it can be difficult. None of us are perfect. But each of us gets up with a person who looks exactly like you every morning. And if you do not have respect for that person, then what is it that you are saying, since the person whom you get up with is you? Now, why would you not have respect? Let's only focus it on AccuWeight Loss. The reason you would not have respect or regard is because you judge that person based upon their performance. But here's the problem. We've talked about it many, many, many times. The emotions that we experience, and by the way, remember, when I met Dr. Chu, I was almost 300 pounds. You and I deal with the same problems. Right now, I'm Dr. Schwartz, but let's not focus on that. Let's accept the fact that I was at one time almost 300 pounds, and we'll get back there. But first, it requires a certain amount of behavior on our parts if we're going to succeed in losing that weight. Now, if we're narcissistic, then all we focus on and care about are our feelings. And since food has such a powerful, comforting impact on us, we're saying that if we love ourselves, we're going to address that need for the comfort we have, and we're not going to behave in a manner to help us reach our goal. And if we don't accept our behavior, then we begin to judge ourselves. All of that creates issues and problems. Remember what the psychiatrist said. Remember what the principal said. She said I was insidious and that I was going to grow up to be someone like Al Capone. She had said I had a criminal mind. Based upon what? Everyone disregarded the fact that I knew what was going on in the classroom. I was able to answer questions because I had a terrific memory. But I couldn't read. How do you take a test if you can't read? You have to take the time to see this person, to involve yourself with this person. And that was 70 years ago. Imagine what it is today for all of us. So the issue is one, and I want you to, do you have respect for yourself, which includes, I'd like to hear from any of you who tell me you're perfect. Because if you are perfect, I need to learn from you. Because I'd like to raise my ability to be perfect. Now, I then, number one, have to accept the fact that I'm not perfect. Now, add that to what I was in 5th grade. Not only did kids make fun of me, but I knew then that they were valuing me in a different kind of way. So that when I reached the point in private practice, and remember, I was a psychologist. When I realized, and I did not know it was burnout at that time, I knew I couldn't listen anymore. And so I worked very, very hard to be as good a therapist as I could be. But I was taking off more and more time, and I blossomed to almost 300 pounds. And that's when Dr. True came into my life. And I thought I'd share with you. He said, you cannot be an weight doctor. What he said to me is, how are you going to help people lose weight when you're fat? What kind of example are you going to be? And that's when I did AccuWeight loss. And in 3 months, I lost 84 pounds. I cannot tell you, I fell back in love with myself. All my other accomplishments paled by the fact that in 3 months I lost 84 pounds. Because I had made up my mind and I stuck to the program. And I hated it. Milk, fruits and vegetables. Milk, fruits and vegetables. But that hate began to change. After about the 2nd or 3rd week, I recognized that I was losing inches. And I realized that I was losing inches because I was doing something that impacted on that fact. And in those days, I had little understanding of the chemistry that goes behind the program. Dr. Chu said, do this. This is what Dr. Chu taught me, and this is what I did. And it worked. The benefit came from the fact that I recognized, after all the therapies that I had had for myself that brought me to where I was, that for the first time in my life, there was a clarity that not only was I responsible for me, but I could take control, which I never understood. And when this elder that I spoke to asked me to refocus the word love, self-love, to self-esteem, it clicked. Because I was really happy with this person who did what he did, and he did it for me, and I was the only one to get anything out of it, because it was personal. And I was truly happy with myself. I've never really shared this with anyone. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because, as you know, the reason I am still working is this is payback for all those women teachers who supported me so that not only did the dyslexia minimize and go away, but the ADD came under control. And here I am today talking to you, knowing that the food and comfort that it gave me was the key to my understanding of myself. And I want to shift this over to you. What is it that you're allowing to happen and you do not have regard for the person that you live with? When you get up in the morning, if you don't like you, you're going to spend the rest of the day with a person that you don't like, day after day after day after day. But I'm not finished. You can't escape that person. And so here is the question. Can you believe, will you believe, that if you make a decision to begin to regard that person that you get up with based upon new decisions, new behaviors, new attitudes, but you don't have to leave your house. And here's what I mean. Stop and question number one. What is it that says inside your head it's time to lose weight? Not is it good? Is it right? Is it wrong? What is it that you want to lose weight? So the first question is, if you want to lose weight, will that make you feel good? I would hope the answer is yes. So now we have a reason for wanting to lose weight. Question number two, do you have to change your eating habits if you're going to lose the weight which will make you feel good? Again, the answer is yes. Question number three. Do you recognize all of the temptations that are out there and the fact that food gives you comfort? It makes you feel good. Yesterday, I went and celebrated my older brother's 90th birthday. They served food, and I enjoyed myself because I was with my brother and I was getting comfort with the food and being with him and sharing this. I got on the scale this morning, and between yesterday and today, I've put on 3 pounds. Now, let's understand what's going on in my head. I made a choice, and I'm allowed to make that choice, that I wanted to share my brother's 90th birthday, and I wanted to eat with him because the food also tasted good and gave me comfort. I don't regret that at all, and I would do it again. But now it's Monday, and I'm up 3 pounds. I have 2 choices. Number one, I can argue, I can complain, I can call myself stupid. Why did you do that? That was silly. You didn't have to. I made a decision. I chose to do it. So let's get rid of all that stuff. The question is, now that I'm up 3 pounds, I'm going to this week recalibrate how I'm going to live this week in order to dissipate those 3 pounds that I've gained. And I suspect much of them also is probably water retention as well. Now, here's the key. I was so happy with myself, even though I was frustrated and annoyed when I got off the scale. And the reason I was happy with myself is because I heard my mind say, take care of yourself. Don't ignore it. You had every right to do what you did. But nothing is free. Therefore, you have to adjust to your own behavior. So first and foremost, recognize, and this is important, that we have the tools to create behaviors so that we take back control in spite of the fact that we're not perfect. So let's redefine self-love. It's not narcissism. It's not sitting there looking at our reflections and saying how wonderful and beautiful. It's not making up stories. All of us have value and worth. If first we have regard for ourselves. How you treat you has nothing to do with anyone else. It's choice. It may be learned behavior. That's true. There are all kinds of situations and circumstances. But you now have the ability to say, stop. We have the tools. I had a woman on the phone today. For the last 2 weeks, she has not lost any weight. She hasn't gained. She hasn't lost. And I was talking with her. She's a patient on remote. She doesn't come into the office. And I said to her, how is it possible that you're both on the program and have not lost weight? And she openly said, I have not been perfect. And I said, okay. And how do you feel about not having been perfect? And she said, I feel guilty. And I said, why do you feel guilty? She said, because I was bad. She was bad. Now, here's the truth. She was not bad. She made a choice. She followed through on that choice. And the choice caused her not to lose weight. If she had a higher regard for herself, she would have recognized that she made the choice and there was nothing wrong with the choice as long as she accepts herself and her behavior, because she has regard for herself and says, I don't have to make any excuses. I did what I did. I then asked her, would she do it again? And she said, it's summer, there were things going on. And now that you asked me, I had a good time. And you know, you're right, Dr. Schwartz. And one of the reasons you're right is I didn't lose weight, but I didn't go off the deep end either, and I've stayed the same. And a smile came onto her face. Now, this is what is important to all of us, and we're not seeing it. You have the control if you use the tools that we have. Admit that you're not perfect. And if that's a problem, look around you, and I defy you to show me anyone that you know. And I don't care who they are or what they are. I defy you to show me a perfect person. Now, if you're not perfect, you can strive for being better. And if you admit that you're tempted and that you have a tool to control that temptation, then all you have to do is apply the tool. And perfection then is not a problem. The success that you attain becomes the issue. Now I'm going to try some questions. I really enjoy my milk days and have no problem doing them. I find that I struggle on eating days and wind up cheating. What do you suggest? I find that a very interesting question. First of all, I want you to notice this person did not say vegetable days, said eating days. And what she is also saying is she gets pleasure that's hidden underneath on these eating days. And I'm using her words, I wind up cheating. Now, you can't cheat yourself. It's a decision that you make. And that decision is not right or wrong. It's a decision that only stands because you have made another decision. Does it make any difference what you eat if you're not on a weight loss program? The answer is no. So the only reason it's a problem, you made a decision to be on a weight loss program. Now, when you decided to be on a weight loss program, did you recognize that you would have to eat differently? Yes, you did. Did you also know that you would be tempted? Yes, you did. Did you set up something to help you with the fact that you know you would be tempted, and I'm going to reinterpret the word cheating, and you would give in? And the answer there is yes. So what do? We have a protocol. It's called Dr. John's Lollipops, or it's called Tic Tacs. You don't have to do anything. You are tempted. Take the Tic Tac, take the Dr. John's, put it in your mouth, and you can stand on your head. You will not be able to cheat on yourself. And here's the key. It's now after the fact. How do you feel about the fact that you held strong and did not cheat? If you tell me, you can call me on the phone and say I'm unhappy, then you weren't honest, because you're the one who set the goal to lose weight. And if you set the goal to lose weight, you were being dishonest if you can say, I maintain control. Because what's the truth? Either you want to lose weight or you don't. And remember, you can't use the word if or but. If is not a real word. If my grandmother had been my grandfather, I would not be me. It's irrelevant, because my grandmother was my grandmother, and therefore I am me, not if. It's not a real word. Number 2, cheating on myself. Was I being truthful with myself? And the moment you are truthful with yourself, your worth and your regard goes up. And the more you do it, the better it feels. And the more you do it and the better it feels, the easier it is to do it. And that's what this is all about. Changing your perception of your capacity, of what you have in you, but keeping it simple. Temptation is not going to go away. Food giving you comfort is not going to go away. Foods tasting good and having you enjoy them are not going to go away. And they don't have to go away. All of those are real and good. Therefore, I say to this woman, they're vegetable days, not eating days. You know the rules. Follow them. Dr. Schwartz, I'm going on vacation in 2 weeks. Should I start phase 2 now so I'm used to eating before I go? Now, the person is going on vacation in 2 weeks. Now, what that means is that she's near goal. So that's point number 1. Now, phase 2 is twofold. Learning how to eat, not what to eat. Learning how to eat and resetting set point. So my answer to her was, we would not be 2 weeks away if you were actually at your goal. So you would be compromising and saying, well, it's okay because I'm going on vacation, I'm not going to finish up. And number 2, doing something that's totally unnecessary. Phase 2 is phase 2. And she made the decision. She said, I'm going to finish the program. And the week before I go on vacation, we're going to start phase 2, so I will know how to handle it. I thought it was a perfect answer. She's on vacation, so I can't tell you, but when they come back, I'll try to bring you up to date. Are plantains a fruit or vegetable? Plantains are a fruit. Plantains are a vegetable. How you want to put them into your program? Be my guest. They're either or. So one plantain is one fruit. As a vegetable, the weight of one plantain impacts on the amount that you're allowed to have. Next question. I like dairy, but I cannot have it often in large amounts. Can I do ripple milk and regular yogurt on the same day? Can I try to alternate one day dairy and one day ripple? I think that's a wonderful question. First, let's understand something. This person is telling us by their question that they are lactose intolerant. That means their bodies do not properly digest the lactose in the milk, the sugar in the milk. So, first of all, that person should be using lactose-free milk. Number two, ripple milk is our vegan alternative. We like it. It works. The only thing we have to do with the ripple milk is we have to add conjugated linoleic acid, which cows get in their milk from eating grass. And we have to add some fat as well. Now, can I alternate one dairy day and one ripple day? The answer is, since ripple is an alternative for vegans or for people who don't want to fully go to lactose-free milk, the answer is absolutely yes. Remember, the key is milk was chosen because it's your major source of protein. And you're going to get the protein whether you use lactose-free milk or whether you use ripple milk. So the answer is structure, schedule, do it, and you'll be successful. My friends say they have an egg in the morning. Can I do that too? The answer is, I do not know. But let me give you the reason why. Eggs are put in with people who are obese and need the extra protein so that we have to modify their food intake. And that's where it's recommended, because an egg is protein, an egg is B vitamins, and an egg is extra fat. So the answer is, I have to speak to the person themselves and not use an egg arbitrarily. Last question. I just started AccuWeight. I work out with a trainer. My weight loss seems to be really slow compared to my friends who are not working out. I'm confused because I thought working out would help. Now, I think it's a terrific question. Number one, the first 2 weeks on your program are cleansing and detoxifying. Number two, if you are going to work out, it is only for toning, not for body or muscle building. Now, this person works out with a trainer. Obviously, this person has been doing the exercise prior to going on AccuWeight. What kind of exercise, what kind of understanding does the trainer have? And number 3, you know if you're working out, you're going to sweat, not perspire. You're going to sweat. And when you sweat, you offload not only water, but electrolytes. Are we accommodating and adjusting? What does the trainer know? And let me point out what I've said many times before. 10 hours on a treadmill at 3.5 miles an hour. 10 hours on that treadmill are less than a pound. So the problem is in the opposite direction. I have no problem with your toning your body, but are you treating yourself the way your body needs to be treated? Because when you perspire, out come the electrolytes, out come the water, and how can not impact on your weight loss? Again, this is why we have questions and answers. This is why we have consultants. This is why we have to interact with each other. We're celebrating 25 years in business because we care about you and we're there for you. You have to do the work. But if you don't use the resources, then how can you have high regard for yourself? When you use the resource, all of you are adults because we don't allow kids to do the program. And if you don't have high regard for yourself, let's start. I want to thank you for listening. I hope to see and speak to many of you soon. Hi, Yvonne. Hi, Doc Gabby. Thank all of you for being here. Next time, see ya.